Joined by Dr. Cherif Amir, a geopolitical analyst. Can you hear me, sir? Dr. Cherif, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you very well.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
How are you, sir? Dr. Cherif, Egypt celebrates Africa Day annually on the 25th of May. The day serves as a reminder of the country's commitment to the continent's unity, diversity, and progress. What's your take on that?
Well, it's obvious that Egypt is following its role that it has begun since 2013 in Africa. We have decided to be the leaders in this domain. We know that Africa was neglected for many decades before, and now Egypt is trying to be present. It's not only through the African Union, it's not only through our leadership of the African Union at that time. It's continuous. Egypt's presence is very vital to the economic, social, political development in the region, in the continent. We also know that there were numerous conflicts in this continent, unfortunately, whether in Libya, in Sudan, South Sudan. We had a major role in calming the situation, in mediation. Also the question of refugees, we have seen what took place in Sudan and how we have acted actively to accept all these refugees on our territory as soon as the fighting broke out.
Right. Well, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi stressed that Egypt continues to do its best to support leading and a continuous peace and stability in the African continent. How do you view Egypt's role in solving a number of disputes in the African continent?
Well, this is an excellent question because, you know, in fact, in South Sudan, there was the fighting between the government and some militias and some factions, and the situation was very tense there. Egypt mediated through General Ambassador Kamel, head of the intelligence, and then President Sisi made his first visit to Juba, to the capital of South Sudan. We were present in this conflict from the beginning, trying to mediate between them. Egypt always hosted these conferences, conciliation conferences in Cairo. So the question of South Sudan was resolved. We did the same thing in many other places. In Libya, we have mediated in the stability of the political situation, although still volatile. And even in Sudan, when the revolution against the Bashir regime took place, we were present and to make things calm down. But unfortunately, we all know that foreign interference spoiled all what took place there. Egypt never gives up. We never give up about our mediation, and because this is, if we can call it our backyard, it's our continent, and we cannot afford any more instability in this continent.
Right. Well, since the founding of the United Nations in 1945, Africa has arguably undergone the most dramatic transformations of the region in the world. How do you see the most important transformations that took place since 1945?
Well, of course, the movement of independence. We have seen many African countries gain their independence afterwards. And it was at that time Egypt's political motivation towards the liberal movement of freedom movement in the continent, whether in Congo, whether in Kenya. We were present in all that, and of course the war in Algeria. So many African countries gained independence with the help of Egypt. African countries also went through, unfortunately, tribal wars, wars between foreign powers on the soil of Africa during the Cold War and after that. So civil wars and famine were the tragedy which has struck all this continent. And of course, let's not forget dictatorship at a certain time. Was in Uganda at a certain time. And I think that now we're witnessing a new generation of leadership. Young people are not any more enthusiastic to find the immigration outside of the continent because they know they are doing their best to find a place in their own countries. So all what we have seen in this struggle, it was worth it because this is a rich continent. It's not a poor continent. We know that Europe gets its raw materials from Africa. So since 1945 till now, it's a struggle to survive.
Right. Dr. Cherif, Egypt assumed the chairmanship of the African Union for 1 year. What were the main challenges that faced Egypt during that year, and especially with regards to conflict resolutions?
Well, it was the question of economic development. We know that we all were going through difficult times, whether in Egypt and other African countries. It was after the Arab Spring, and then many instabilities were everywhere. President Sisi had a plan of a common market for African countries, as the Europeans did in the 1970s and 1960s also. They started to the economy. So we have to do the same. We have to work together, maybe to some countries, not all the continent. This was the first challenge. The second challenge was the technology that was not present in all the governmental institutions through Africa. So we had this kind of conferences here in Egypt to working on the digitalization, meaning turning every service into digital service in this continent, so to attract investment. And the third challenge, of course, was the infrastructure. We have built Egypt, for example, a dam in Congo and in Tanzania, and medical center in Juba in South Sudan. So we know that infrastructure will bring stability, will attract the people more to their own countries. And President Sisi always called upon the young people in Africa to stay in their countries, contribute, and work for their own future, not seeking outside help or immigration.
Right. Well, I would like to thank you so much, Dr. Cherif Amir, our geopolitical analyst. Many thanks for your insight. Always a pleasure having you, sir. And moving on to our next report.